Well, it's Thursday the 4th of April 2024. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? A little bit of a hiatus in getting things done here. What I'm doing today, hopefully, is getting some hinges for that. I've got a shed full of hinges, not the sort of cranked things that I want for that. So, you know, things to do there. In the background, the washing machine running, because our electricity at this time of morning is cheaper than later in the morning. And a job that I almost wish I hadn't started. There are things you can't do at this time of day. You know, I can't drive the lawnmower about. I can't get a road drill out and start knocking things down. And as part of making all of this beautiful, or, you know, less ugly, I was looking at this stonework, and it seems to have been painted every year since it was installed, and we don't know when this was installed. There are no records. It was put here. The theory is that this was put here in the 1920s, and we have some reason for that, but no evidence. But the other thing about it, this is way too fancy for a tiny little peasant cottage. The theory behind this house was used as lodgings for some Italian masons in the 1920s when they were working on buildings all around the town. And the theory that we have, no evidence whatsoever, just a theory, is that this came out of a different building. It is way, way, way too fancy for this house. Now, the paint that's been used on it over the years, who knows what it is, but what I have discovered is underneath the paint is beautiful stone. But it's soft stuff. And I did attack it with a nylon brush and a drill, but that was starting to bite into the stone. I daren't use heat on this because that will stain and colour the stone. I don't want to use chemical because that will soak into the stone. So this is an as and when job with old-fashioned sandpaper and elbow grease. A good job to do when you can't go out in the dark and run a lawnmower. Well, we had to come and inspect to see what we're doing, didn't we? Yeah, this is going to be one of those sort of stop action videos really, where I'll do a bit and I'll take a picture and you'll say, wow, great progress. No, this is definitely an as and when job. Well down the priority list, but it's the sort of thing that you can do 2 minutes while the kettle boils. Well, it's light enough to start doing things. The weather says it's going to rain shortly, and I think that's right. Certainly looks like it will. But I did just think I'd show you what little bit of progress I'd made with layering the Photinia. Now you can see I've trimmed things up a bit, but the bottom twiggy branches I've laid over, dug an hole, pushed it in, leaving leaves above the ground. And of course the challenge for me now is to remember not to run my lawnmower over it. The comedy of this was, I thought about this. I've never done layering before, not deliberately, but I'd got an idea about it from things that I'd heard years ago. So before I did it, I did what we all do. I went online and I searched the internet, and there's plenty of people who give you lots of advice about how to do this. And to get the internet, we all pay millions of pounds of access charges anyway. Yesterday afternoon, of course, I played Scrabble, and I explained my thinking on this to Nicole, and she looked at me as if I was daft. Well, of course that's what you do. You know, she's been doing that for nearly 80 years when she wants a plant to propagate. And you think, why did I check the internet when I could have simply asked an old lady that I play Scrabble with? So much easier, isn't it? We'll see what they do. There's a wonderful little chap. Let's make him famous. We could even give him a name, couldn't we? What do you reckon's a good name for a little chap like that? Oh, he's gone. Yeah, fly away, Peter, fly away, Paul. Names, funny things, names, aren't they? I have all my life struggled with remembering names. Faces, not a problem. I remember people's faces. I know who they are. I know where they went to school or what they like for breakfast. Ask me their name, I am in stuck. Anyway, today is sometimes described as Easter Thursday, and I've arrived here with a little bit of time to spare before the shop opens, so I turned to the readings for Easter Thursday. And the reading actually comes from the book of Acts, chapter 8, verses 26 to 40. Which is that wonderful little passage where we're told about a chap called Philip, we know his name, going and talking with a minister, a government minister. As you do, you know, it's Thursday, let's go and talk to a government minister. Now, the minister was a minister to Candace, who was Queen of Ethiopia. Candace, that's a funny name, isn't it? Some of you across the pond might wince if we say Candace, but here we're talking about the Queen of Ethiopia and one of her ministers. And this chap was reading from the prophet Isaiah, and he needed a little bit of help with understanding it. So Philip gets up into the cart, into the wagon, whatever it is, carriage, and preaches to this minister of Queen Candace. And we know Philip's name, and we know Simon Peter's name, and we know names for all sorts of people, but somehow this Ethiopian is only ever called the Ethiopian Eunuch. What a sort of come down just to be known by what you are rather than what you were called. And yeah, he was the apostle to Ethiopia. We don't know his name. So, I'm just going to talk about Ethiopian eunuchs all day. Well, I got in and I needed to sit down and drink tea and get over shock. I've been out and spent money. And some people will say, what on earth did you spend money on tomato plants for? Because it is absolutely true that I will be given tomato plants. I've got plenty that are sprouting as seeds. And yeah, what did I buy them for? Well, I was wandering around my favourite shop, and one of my favourite people was just in the throes of putting out the trolleys of tomato plants that they've got for sale, and they were silly cheap. €2.40 for 6 plants, and I do know the price of plant pots and all that sort of thing, so it really was a bit of a no-brainer to pick them up. And what we'll do, we'll get them in some dirt and we'll have some nice big fat red round tomatoes. Montfavet, never heard of them. As long as they taste like tomatoes, that will be good, won't it? There we are. Yes, we'll get those in. And I've been industrious with making best use of the solar and wind powered washing dryers.